Before we drift into tonight's tale of the hidden history of Wizard City, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from tonight? And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Wizard City. Even the name feels like a spell in itself. When we think of most of us imagine rolling candy hills, icy towers, or firelit kingdoms. But far away, tucked into a pocket of the land like a secret that only reveals itself when you are ready, lies a city that hums with a different kind of energy. Not the playful chatter of Candy Kingdom, not the metallic grind of Fire Kingdom, but the quiet thrum of power, layered and hidden, woven into every cobblestone street and crooked tower. Wizard City is not just a place where magic is practiced. It is a place where magic breathes. The very air feels thick with it, as if every step you take stirs the invisible dust of old spells, drifting like motes of light in a beam of moonshine. The city seems alive, though not in the same way that Princess Bubblegum's creations live. This is a living, built from memory, ritual, and old words whispered so many times they became part of the stone. When you wander through Wizard City, if you were ever allowed to, you would notice that everything feels slightly tilted. Streets that curve where they should be straight. Towers that lean but never fall. Lanterns that glow without oil or flame, pulsing like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. It is a city designed not with blueprints or rulers, but with the wandering imaginations of magicians who cared more about effect than efficiency. And yet, despite its crookedness, it holds together, balanced by some unseen law of the arcane. This is the first layer of Wizard City's mystery. The way it exists just slightly out of step with the rest of O. Some say it was built on the ruins of a place that came long before, perhaps even before the Mushroom War. Others whisper that it is not really a city at all, but a spell, a kind of collective enchantment that only appears to those with the right spark of magic. The truth, as always in Adventure Time's world, is somewhere between story and reality, a shimmer of both. Inside this city, the culture of wizards unfolds in ways that outsiders rarely see. Magic here is not treated as a hobby or a talent, but as currency, as reputation, as the very breath of life. To walk the streets as a wizard means carrying the weight of your spells on your shoulders like a badge of identity. It is why the place feels both wondrous and intimidating. Every look exchanged between cloaked figures in alleyways carries the unspoken question, what can you do, and how powerful are you really? Wizard City is governed by rules, though few are ever written down. They are rules understood in glances, in duels fought under flickering torches, in apprentices bowing their heads when masters pass by. It is a society where to refuse a challenge is as dangerous as losing one, where a mistake in ritual can cost not just embarrassment, but perhaps one's very body or soul. And yet, this risk is what keeps the city alive. It is what makes it thrum with a tension that never quite fades, like the soft hum of a crystal left vibrating long after it has been struck. Still, it is not all duels and dangers. Walk a little further into the heart of the city, and you will find crooked marketplaces filled with jars of glowing dust, scrolls inked in shifting letters, and amulets that seem to whisper your name when you brush your fingers against them. Apprentices trade gossip while lugging stacks of grimoires bigger than their torsos. Old wizards haggle over the price of spell ingredients, as if magic could be reduced to mere numbers. It is strangely domestic, almost ordinary, except for the sparks of light that sometimes slip out of a careless pouch and dance through the streets like fireflies. There is a kind of charm in this contradiction. Wizard City is at once dangerous and comforting, serious and silly. The same place where a dark sorcerer might summon shadows in a back alley is the place where Abracadaniel might clumsily drop his wand in the marketplace, causing sparks to scatter harmlessly over the cobblestones. This balance between the eerie and the whimsical is what makes Wizard City feel alive in a way that no other kingdom in O quite matches. And yet, for all its noise and bustle, there is a hush that hangs over the city. Not silence, but restraint, as if everyone who lives there knows some great secret, a truth too heavy to speak aloud. The apprentices feel it in their bones, the masters carry it in their tired eyes, and even the wandering visitors catch the edge of it when they cross the threshold. Wizard City is not only a city of spells, it is a city of shadows, of secrets kept tucked away in the folds of cloaks and the cracks of old stone walls. Some say the city itself listens, that if you speak too loudly in the wrong corner, the walls will remember and the knowledge will find its way to ears you never meant it for. Whether that is truth or another tale spun by wizards to keep outsiders cautious hardly matters. What matters is the feeling, the sense that every flickering lantern, every crooked tower is watching. And in that watchfulness, we begin to see why Wizard City feels so different. It is not a place of open kingship like Candy Kingdom, not a realm of elemental passion like Fire Kingdom or Ice Kingdom. It is a society that thrives on mystery where the unknown is not a danger to be solved, but the very fabric of daily life. When night falls over Wizard City, the entire atmosphere changes. The crooked towers glow with strange colors, each window lit not by firelight, but by the shifting hues of spells left to simmer overnight. The streets, once busy with barter and bustle, empty into silence, though it is not a restful silence. It is the silence of pages turning in private studies, of chalk scratching diagrams on stone floors, of whispered incantations drifting from behind locked doors. Lanterns float untethered above alleyways, bobbing like jellyfish in the dark, casting their dim glow on apprentices sneaking home after forbidden experiments. Cats with eyes like twin moons slink along the rooftops, watching for sparks of miscast spells. Even the air seems different at night, colder, denser, as though magic itself pools in the low places of the city, like mist gathering before dawn. It is during these quiet hours that the truest face of Wizard City reveals itself. By day, it can be playful, a little chaotic, full of eccentricity. But by night, it is serious, heavy with intent, a city that remembers its ancient purpose. There is an unspoken understanding among its people. Magic is not only a tool, not only a spectacle. Magic is responsibility, and responsibility weighs heavily in the dark. And yet there is beauty in this night. To walk the main thoroughfare when the sky above is scattered with stars is to see the city alive with hidden lights. Sigils carved into old door frames glow faintly as their wards renew themselves. Gargoyle statues twitch ever so slightly as if stretching cramped limbs. The river that winds through the city reflects the shimmer of enchantments cast above it, so that every ripple carries a fragment of rainbow fire. It is a dreamscape built upon layers of ritual, fragile yet enduring. There are stories that the city itself is older than most kingdoms of Oo, that when the world fell into ruin after the Mushroom War, it was Wizard City that carried forward the traditions of the arcane. These whispers suggest that the crooked towers are not accidents of eccentric design, but relics grown upward from the bones of a world half forgotten. Perhaps that is why so many who enter feel an almost instinctive unease, as though they are trespassing into a history still alive beneath the surface. The culture that thrives here is inseparable from that history. Wizards are not merely citizens, they are participants in a living ritual. Every act, from dueling in the open squares to sipping tea brewed from enchanted herbs, carries meaning. Apprentices are not just students, but inheritors of an unbroken chain, each carrying forward fragments of knowledge that have survived catastrophes and centuries. It is this weight of continuity that makes Wizard City feel so unlike anywhere else. And yet, despite this gravity, the city is still ooh. There is humor here and eccentricity. Strange creatures wander the streets, summoned or transformed, sometimes forgotten by their masters and left to roam. A group of apprentices might turn a study hall into a floating obstacle course just for the joy of seeing who can last the longest. The absurd lives comfortably alongside the profound. It is part of the city's charm, a reminder that even the most powerful magic is still wielded by beings who laugh, stumble, and dream. If you listen closely, you can hear the cadence of that duality in the city's rhythm. A sudden burst of fireworks spells erupting over the central square, followed by a solemn procession of robed figures chanting beneath the moon. A noisy brawl between rival spellcasters spilling into the streets, immediately followed by both sides sitting down together to share enchanted pastries. Life here moves in circles of contradiction, and the contradictions are what keep it whole. The unspoken rules hold it all together. Everyone knows not to question the elders too loudly. Everyone knows when to bow their head, when to stand their ground, and when to accept a challenge. These rules are never taught directly, but absorbed like air. A newcomer to Wizard City might find themselves baffled at the way conversations turn sharp, how laughter can hide danger, how respect is measured in sparks of power rather than words, but to the wizards themselves it is simply life, as natural as breathing. This is why Wizard City feels both alien and familiar. Its people are not so different from any other in Ooh. They eat, they gossip, they worry about the weather, but their worries are laced with questions about spellcraft, their gossip tangled in rivalries of power, their meals flavored by enchanted herbs that hum faintly in the mouth. It is life, filtered through the lens of the arcane. And for those who dare to look deeper, Wizard City is more than a city. It is a living archive, a sanctuary of knowledge and secrecy, a monument to both the brilliance and the folly of those who wield power beyond ordinary grasp. To understand Wizard City is to understand that magic in Ooh is not just a flourish of light and sound, but a culture, a heritage, a weight carried through generations. That is why the city remains cloaked in mystery. To outsiders, it is little more than a story, a rumor passed between kingdoms. But to those who have walked its crooked streets, who have breathed its heavy, shimmering air, Wizard City is unforgettable. It lingers in memory like a half-remembered dream, full of wonder and shadows waiting to be uncovered piece by piece. As you walk deeper into Wizard City, past the crooked storefronts and chanting courtyards, you begin to feel the quiet pull of hierarchy. Though the city may look chaotic towers sprouting at odd angles, streets curling into labyrinths beneath the surface, is an order as strict as any kingdom in Ooh. Wizards live by reputation, and reputation is built upon the mastery of spells. There is no crown or throne here, no princess or monarch to enforce rule. Instead, respect flows in unseen currents. Those who wield greater power find themselves with more space, more freedom, more voices bending toward them in quiet reverence. Those with less power shuffle along the edges, whispering, learning, watching for a chance to rise. It is not a cruelty, but an understanding. The city thrives on challenge. To deny it would be to deny its heartbeat. For the apprentice, life begins in the shadow of this hierarchy. They come from all corners of Oo, some born with sparks of magic already twitching in their fingertips, others grasping hungrily at the promise of it. Many arrive nervous, clutching second-hand wands or ragged spell books, stepping into streets that hum with enchantments they can barely comprehend. They are outsiders, yet with time they will learn the rules, spoken and unspoken, until they too belong to the rhythm of the city. Apprenticeship is not just about lessons in spellcraft. It is about survival, about learning when to speak and when to stay silent. In the public squares, duels break out almost daily. Some are lighthearted, contests of pride where sparks fly and laughter rings out. Others are far more serious, whispered challenges where the price of failure might be banishment or worse. An apprentice who learns quickly to read these currents, who to follow, who to avoid, when to bow and when to fight, will thrive. Those who do not often fade into obscurity, drifting into the city's forgotten corners. The architecture itself seems to echo this structure. Towers rise high and lean sharply, as though competing to reach the sky. Narrow alleys twist like puzzles, always leading toward courtyards where masters sit in quiet judgment. Even the colors of the city seem to sort themselves into patterns, bright banners draped by the confident, muted tones clinging to those less sure of their place. It is as if the city itself rewards power and diminishes weakness. And yet for all the weight of hierarchy, Wizard City remains curiously alive with individuality. Every wizard stamps their mark upon the streets. Some towers sparkle with endless fireworks, while others brood under heavy clouds conjured by their owners. Shops are crammed with oddities, enchanted teapots that refill themselves endlessly, cloaks that shimmer between colors like oil on water, familiars perched lazily on shelves. Each corner is a reflection of the wizard who shaped it. Step too far in one direction, and you may stumble into a neighborhood where the laws of gravity bend strangely, or where the air hums with static from a half-finished incantation. This patchwork quality is what makes the city so dangerous and so alluring. For every place of warmth and welcome, there is another filled with menace, but neither exists without the other. Wizard City thrives on duality, the blending of light and shadow, brilliance and folly. In this way, it mirrors magic itself, capable of wonder, capable of destruction, never entirely one or the other. Among the residents, rivalries are woven into daily life. Wizards feud over lost grimoires, over apprentices lured away, over trivial slights remembered for decades. Some duels blaze hot and then fade, leaving nothing but scorch marks on the stone. Others last lifetimes, passed from teacher to student like a cursed inheritance. The city remembers these rivalries too. Certain streets are avoided because they belong to feuding masters. Certain taverns carry the weight of old grudges, their air tense with memories of spells once hurled across their tables. But just as often, alliances bloom. Wizards who share goals gather in secret orders, pooling their knowledge and power. These groups are rarely permanent. Trust is a fragile thing among those who thrive on secrecy, but when they form, they shape the city's rhythm. Apprentices whisper of cloaked gatherings beneath the central square, where runes glow faintly against ancient stone, and of conclaves where decisions are made that ripple far beyond the walls of Wizard City. Visitors from beyond often find themselves baffled by this culture. To a candy person or a fire citizen, the endless dueling and secrecy seem chaotic, even reckless. But for the wizards, it is life. Without challenge, they believe, magic would stagnate. Without secrecy, it would lose its mystery. For them, risk and rivalry are not flaws, but the very essence of the city's survival. And perhaps they are right. For even in its crookedness, Wizard City endures. It has lasted through wars, through kingdoms, rising and falling, through the reshaping of itself. Its people accept the tension because they know that tension is what keeps the city strong. And like a bowstring, always pulled taut, it hums with potential, ready to unleash at any moment. There are whispers, of course, that the city's endurance is not natural. Some say it is bound by a great spell, a protection woven in its very foundation. Others believe that its crooked towers and glowing wards are the result of a bargain with cosmic entities, with the elements, perhaps even with death himself. None can say for certain, and perhaps no one truly wants to. For Wizard City thrives on the unanswered question. To know too much might unravel the very enchantment that holds it together. And so it remains half revealed, half hidden, shimmering in the corner of Oo's vast world. To those who live there, it is home, a place of rivalry and camaraderie, danger and delight. To outsiders, it is a riddle draped in cloaks of smoke and spellfire. And to us, drifting gently into the story tonight, it is a dream. A city of spells and shadows, balanced on the edge between history and legend. In the heart of Wizard City lies the central square, a place unlike any other in Oo. By day it bustles with spell merchants and dueling apprentices, its stones etched with faint burn marks and cracked runes from centuries of contests. By night, however, the square changes. The moonlight glances off the runes carved deep into the flagstones, awakening patterns that shimmer faintly across the ground. Old magic stir, not violent or threatening, but steady and ancient, a heartbeat older than the city itself. This square is where traditions live longest. Wizards gather here not just to test their strength, but to affirm their belonging. Each duel, each display of power is more than pride. It is proof that they are part of the city's eternal rhythm, that their voices join the endless chorus of magic that has pulsed through these streets for ages. To stand in the square, wand in hand, is to place yourself within the story of Wizard City itself. Those who have walked this square often say that the stones remember. When a duel begins, they claim to hear echoes of past battles, whispers of old incantations rattling in the corners of their minds. Perhaps it is imagination, or perhaps the city does indeed keep its memories, replaying them for those sensitive enough to listen. To a wizard, this is not frightening. It is comforting. Like sitting by a fire that has burned for countless generations, its warmth carrying the weight of all who came before. But the city is not only about traditions of power. Beneath the rivalry, there is a strange sense of community. Wizards may duel fiercely one day and share secrets the next. Enemies may become allies when facing a greater threat. For all the chaos and danger, Wizard City is also a sanctuary, a place where those born different, touched by the arcane, can belong, where they can walk openly with sparks at their fingertips and not be feared but understood. This is perhaps the truest magic of the city, not the spells flung into the sky, not the charms traded in the markets, but the way it gathers together those who might otherwise wander alone. Abracadaniel, clumsy and kind, finds a place here. Ron James, pragmatic and weary, belongs here. Even the most eccentric sorcerers, the ones muttering to themselves or shaping odd familiars from scraps of clay, have their space. The city is a patchwork of personalities, bound together by the simple fact that all who live here carry magic in their blood or bones. And yet the city never lets anyone forget the shadows that linger at its edges. For every bright spell there is a curse. For every laugh in the marketplace, a whisper of betrayal. The balance is delicate, and the people of Wizard City know it. They live with it, just as they live with the crookedness of their towers and the unpredictability of their streets. Perhaps that is what makes them resilient. They have learned to walk hand in hand with uncertainty, never flinching from it, but weaving it into their lives like thread through fabric. Legends say that deep beneath the city lies a library older than the towers above, a vault of spells written in languages no one remembers, guarded by creatures that are neither alive nor dead. Some claim that the masters of Wizard City draw their strength from this hidden place, visiting it in dreams or through secret tunnels. Others say it is only a myth, a bedtime story told to apprentices to remind them that knowledge is never fully theirs, only borrowed from the vastness of the past. Whether real or imagined, the idea of this hidden library lingers over the city like a shadow, feeding the sense that there is always more just out of reach. And perhaps that is what Wizard City truly is, a reminder that knowledge is infinite, that magic is a river with no end. Its crooked streets and glowing wards are only fragments of something larger, something that stretches into the oldest histories of Ooh and beyond. To walk its streets is to walk among echoes, to breathe air heavy with the weight of centuries, to feel that you are part of a story still unfolding. As dawn rises, the city shifts once more. The glow of spells fades into the light of morning. Duels give way to lessons, and apprentices shuffle back into study halls. The tension never leaves, but it softens, replaced by the busy rhythm of learning and practicing. Cats with star-bright eyes retreat to the shadows, lanterns dim until the night calls them again, and the river flows quietly under bridges etched with runes. Another day begins, as countless days have before, and the city endures. Wizard City remains a place apart, hidden yet central, whimsical yet solemn. It is a city where spells shape life as naturally as breath, where every alley hides a secret, and every tower hums with memory. A city of shadows and fireflies, of rivalries and kinship, of laughter and whispers. To outsiders, it may seem strange, even frightening. To those within, it is simply home. And to us, drifting further into this tale tonight, Wizard City is a dream given shape. A city that does not need to be fully known to be real, because its mystery is what defines it. It is a reminder that in Ooh, as in our own lives, the unknown is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is the very thing that keeps the story alive. This is the city of spells and shadows, the first step in uncovering its hidden history. If Wizard City feels like a dream half remembered, then its origins are the part of the dream that slips furthest from our grasp. The show never tells us clearly when the city was built or by whom. What we have are fragments, scattered hints, and the quiet suggestion that Wizard City may be as old as Ooh itself. To explore its possible beginnings is to walk through mist, tracing shadows that reach back into forgotten centuries. One idea is that Wizard City predates the Mushroom War, standing as one of the last surviving relics of the old human world. The crooked towers and enchanted wards could, in this telling, be built atop ruins of laboratories and research halls, places where science once thrived but eventually blurred into sorcery. It is not hard to imagine human scientists experimenting with energies they barely understood, only for those experiments to evolve into something stranger, wilder, until the line between technology and magic was erased. In this way, Wizard City might not just be a city of wizards, but a city of survivors, carrying forward the sparks of lost human ingenuity, transformed by time and catastrophe into the language of spells. But there is another idea, just as compelling. Some whisper that Wizard City was not born of science, but of exile. That long before the Mushroom War, those who practiced forbidden arts were driven away from ordinary kingdoms and forced to gather in secret. What began as hidden camps in forests and mountains slowly grew, their fires burning through the nights until the sparks became towers. These exiles, bound together by necessity, may have sworn oaths that shaped the city's strange laws. No single monarch, no throne. Power earned not through birthright, but through mastery of the arcane. A society created by outcasts, built to protect themselves from those who feared them. Evidence for this lies in the city's culture of secrecy and dueling. Unlike kingdoms ruled by clear hierarchies, Wizard City thrives on challenge. It is easy to imagine that such traditions began as survival tactics. Exiles, mistrusting one another, would test strength constantly, ensuring only the most capable could lead. Over time, these challenges hardened into rituals until they became the very fabric of wizard life. Still others believe that Wizard City may have been founded after the Mushroom War, not before. In this version, the city is less a relic and more a refuge. When the war tore the world apart, releasing strange energies and waking the old powers beneath the earth, survivors might have gathered to make sense of it all. Some clutched salvaged technology. Others found themselves touched by new forces, mutations of body and mind that gave rise to magic. Together they built a sanctuary, a place to preserve what little they understood of these strange gifts. If this is true, Wizard City could be one of the youngest kingdoms of yet also one of the most essential, a spark of order in a time of chaos. No matter which theory you lean toward, the city's design seems to hold echoes of the past. Its leaning towers and tilting streets suggest a place that grew without plan, as though layered over ruins or patched together from fragments of older settlements. Walk far enough and you may find doorways sealed with stone, windows opening into nothing, staircases cut off halfway up a wall. These are not accidents of magic alone. They are the bones of history, evidence that Wizard City was built and rebuilt, reshaped again and again as generations passed. The founders themselves remain mysterious. Were they a council of archmages, each laying claim to a tower that still bears their mark? Were they wanderers who stumbled upon a place already humming with ancient energy? Or perhaps they were something stranger elemental beings, half human and half cosmic, who carved the city into existence as a bridge between worlds. Adventure Time never tells us directly, but the silence itself feels intentional, as if the city's beginnings are meant to be unknowable, hidden beneath veils that even magic cannot pierce. One clue lies in the connection between Wizard City and ancient magical artifacts. The Enchiridion, for instance, is a book older than most kingdoms, filled with spells and wisdom meant for heroes and wizards alike. While it was not created within Wizard City, its presence in suggests that centers of magical knowledge existed long before Finn or Jake's time. Could Wizard City be one of those centers, a place where such artifacts were studied, guarded, or even forged? If so, then its founders may not have been ordinary wizards at all, but keepers of cosmic truth, chosen to protect the balance between realms. And then there are the whispers about the city's very foundation, Some say it was not built, but summoned, that a spell of such magnitude was cast, it pulled the city into being in a single night. The crooked towers, the glowing wards, the endless duels, all threads woven into existence at once, anchored in place by magic too vast for us to comprehend. If this is true, then Wizard City may not even have a founder in the traditional sense. Its creator would be the spell itself, living and breathing through the stones, shaping the culture of its people like a dream guiding those asleep within it. Whatever the truth, Wizard City's place in Ooh is unique. It does not expand like the Candy Kingdom, nor does it burn brightly like the Fire Kingdom. It endures quietly, as though it has always been there and always will be. Perhaps that is the final answer, that Wizard City was not founded at all, but revealed, that it is not a construction of mortals, but a place that waited, hidden, until the time was right for wizards to gather and call it home. To imagine the city's origins, it helps to think about the world that came before it. The Great Mushroom War reshaped Ooh into a patchwork of strangeness, where science and magic merged in ways no one could fully predict. Radiation, mutagens, and forgotten weapons carved the land into something unrecognizable, but they also awakened new possibilities. Out of this ruin rose kingdoms of candy, fire, ice, and slime, and somewhere among them, Wizard City. If the city was born in the aftermath, then its founders may have been war-scarred survivors, carrying with them fragments of lost technology and half-remembered rituals. Perhaps a group of humans who refused to surrender to despair, instead experimenting with the strange forces that swirled through the wreckage. Over generations, these experiments hardened into tradition. What began as survival became spellcraft, and what began as improvised sanctuaries grew into towers of crooked stone. But the city feels older than that, doesn't it? Its towers lean with the weight of centuries, its wards hum with an ancient resonance. Some scholars of Ooh believe Wizard City predates the war entirely, and that it may have been hidden during humanity's final days, cloaked by enchantments too strong to be broken even by atomic fire. If so, then the city's survival is not an accident, but a testament to the power of its founders. They may have woven spells that turned aside destruction, allowing their sanctuary to endure even as the world outside was consumed. If we lean into this idea, then the founders might not have been human at all. They could have been something closer to the elementals, beings tied to forces greater than themselves. Ice, fire, candy, and slime each carved kingdoms of their own. Perhaps Wizard City was born of a similar figure, not bound to one element, but to the raw essence of magic itself. Such a founder would not rule as monarch, but guide as architect, shaping a culture where mastery, not bloodline, determined respect. The crookedness of Wizard City's structures speaks to this possibility. In Ooh, places shaped by great forces rarely follow the straight lines of human design. Look at the Ice Kingdom, with its jagged towers sculpted by the will of the ice elemental, or the Fire Kingdom, all flowing lava and molten shapes. Wizard City, too, seems grown rather than built, its towers leaning as though pulled skyward by invisible currents, its streets curling as if echoing the spirals of ancient sigils. Could it be that the city itself is a spell cast long ago and still unfolding, reshaping itself with each generation? This theory explains another curious detail: the way the city seems to exist half in shadow. Outsiders rarely stumble upon it by chance, and when they do, it is usually because they were meant to. The city reveals itself like a choice, like a door that opens only to those prepared to walk through. If Wizard City is itself a spell, then it would naturally protect its own secrets, concealing itself from those not aligned with its rhythm. Its founders may have intended it that way, not as arrogance, but as preservation. In a world as fragile as secrecy is survival. And still, the idea of exile lingers. Many who end up in Wizard City are misfits. Abracadaniel, timid and clumsy, finds safety there. Bufo, sly and scheming, thrives within its politics. Ron James, pragmatic and cautious, makes his living there. None of these figures would fit neatly into other kingdoms, yet in Wizard City they belong. Could it be that the city's earliest founders were the same misfits, exiles, those cast out for being different? If so, then Wizard City is not just a sanctuary of magic, but a refuge for those whom the world could not understand. This exile theory also explains the city's peculiar emphasis on duels. When trust is scarce, strength becomes the currency of survival. Early exiles may have established constant challenges to ensure no one grew too powerful unchecked. Over time, what began as brutal necessity softened into ritual. Duels became contests. Contests became tradition, until the culture itself could not exist without them. To this day, apprentices are tested not just on knowledge, but on their ability to stand in the square and prove themselves. It is survival woven into culture, a memory of a time when weakness meant death. Artifacts, too, may hold the key. Is scattered with relics of unimaginable power, the Enchiridion, the gems of the elementals, countless cursed objects sealed away in vaults. Wizard City may have been founded as the guardian of such treasures. Some claim that its central square was once the resting place of a great artifact, long since hidden away, its power seeping into the stones to shape the city around it. If that were true, then Wizard City was never meant to be a home at all, but a watchtower, a fortress disguised as a city built to guard what could not be left unprotected. And so we are left with possibilities, each compelling in its own way. A relic of pre-war science, twisted into magic. A refuge of exiles, hardened by mistrust into ritual. A sanctuary built after the war, piecing order from chaos. Or a living spell cast by an ancient founder whose essence still lingers in the crooked towers. None are confirmed. All are whispered. And perhaps that is exactly how Wizard City was meant to be understood, not as a single truth, but as a tapestry of stories, each adding to the city's enduring mystery. When we look closer at Wizard City's place in we see how every theory about its founding also reflects the culture that grew from it. If it was born from the ashes of human science, then its crooked towers are testaments to human ambition, warped by the strange magic that came after the war. If it was built by exile, then its traditions of secrecy and dueling make perfect sense, carried like scars into each new generation. And if it was summoned into existence as a living spell, then its entire atmosphere, the way it seems to breathe and shift, is simply the city being what it was always meant to be. One cannot ignore the way Wizard City feels timeless. Most kingdoms in are clearly marked by their rulers. Candy Kingdom reflects the mind of Princess Bubblegum. The Ice Kingdom echoes the loneliness of its frozen king. Fire Kingdom is defined by its volcanoes and by its fiery monarchs. But Wizard City resists being tied to any one figure. It is a place where power passes constantly, where rivalries matter more than rulers, where the city itself is the only lasting authority. This gives weight to the idea that it may not have been founded in the way other kingdoms were. Instead, it may have emerged naturally, a collective creation of countless wizards shaping it piece by piece. That collective spirit may be the real clue. Unlike monarchies or dynasties, Wizard City has no throne to trace back to its origin. The absence of a founder's name suggests that it was built not by one, but by many, perhaps an ancient council of magicians, each contributing their knowledge, their wards, their fragments of lore, until the city itself was born. Imagine a group of cloaked figures standing in a ruined landscape, each casting spells into the air that slowly weave together. Towers rise where their incantations meet. Streets bend into spirals where their circles overlap. Out of their combined efforts grows not just a home, but a sanctuary, one that endures because it belongs to all and to none. There are hints of this in the way magic is treated within the city. It is not inherited in the way a crown is. It is not given freely, nor taken by force alone. It is something earned, practiced, and constantly tested. This echoes the possible founding ethos, that no one wizard could ever claim supremacy forever, and that power must always be proven again and again. Such a system could only be born in a city created by many hands, wary of allowing any single figure to dominate. Some legends take this further, suggesting that the founders themselves may have been rivals, archmages who once warred bitterly, only to realize that survival required cooperation. In this telling, Wizard City is less a sanctuary and more a truce. Each tower belonged to a different founder, each district marked by their style. Their rivalry never ended, but it transformed into tradition. Instead of destroying one another, they passed on the culture of dueling, a constant challenge, of respect earned through contest. Over time, the names of these founders were forgotten, but the echoes of their rivalry remain, baked into the stones of the city itself. Oh, others imagine an even stranger beginning. Perhaps the founders were not magicians in the way we think of them, but beings closer to cosmic travelers, figures who carried fragments of universal magic, choosing to seed it in ooh. Adventure Time is full of beings who exist beyond the ordinary Prismo, the cosmic owl, even Death himself. It is not hard to imagine that Wizard City could be the earthly anchor of such entity, a place where their influence took root and gave rise to a society unlike any other. If this were true, then the city is not just old, it is eternal, a manifestation of cosmic power lingering in the mortal world. And yet, for all these grand possibilities, Wizard City remains oddly humble in its presentation. Its towers are crooked, its streets cluttered, its people eccentric. If its founders were truly cosmic or ancient, then why does it look so fragile, so whimsical? Perhaps that is the truest clue of all. Magic in Adventure Time is rarely about perfection. It is about intention. The city does not need to be flawless to endure. It endures because those who live there continue to believe in it, to pour their rituals and rivalries into its foundations. Whether its founders were human, elemental, exiles, or cosmic, what matters is that their creation still lives through those who walk its streets today. Artifacts and relics whisper to us of this continuity. The Enchiridion, though not born in Wizard City, reflects the kind of wisdom and danger the founders may have dealt in. Ancient runes etched into doorways resemble patterns seen in places far older than Oo's current kingdoms. Even the way apprentices learn spells through ritual, repetition, and sometimes failure suggests a tradition passed down unbroken, like a song sung for so long that no one remembers who wrote it. There is also the question of the city's relationship with the rest of Oo. If it predates the Mushroom War, then it must have watched the world collapse and rebuild, choosing always to remain apart. If it was born after, then its founders must have made a deliberate choice to separate themselves, to build walls of secrecy and rules of rivalry rather than merging with kingdoms of candy or fire. Either way, the decision to remain hidden is as significant as the act of founding itself. The city does not expand outward. It does not conquer or absorb. It waits. It watches. It endures. And in that choice lies another layer of mystery. Who were the ones who decided this? Who stood at the beginning and declared that Wizard City would be a place apart, not bound by monarchs or kingdoms, but by magic alone? Were they cautious, fearing persecution from the outside? Or were they ambitious, believing themselves guardians of knowledge too dangerous for the wider world? Perhaps it was both. The duality of Wizard City, whimsical and sinister, communal and secretive, could reflect the very minds of its earliest founders, split between fear and pride, between protection and ambition. Perhaps the most intriguing theory of all is that Wizard City was never meant to last, yet somehow it did. If it truly began as a gathering of exiles or survivors, its crooked towers and layered wards may have been intended as temporary shelters, improvised defenses against a hostile world. Over time, though, what was temporary hardened into permanence. Families formed. Apprentices became masters. Traditions solidified until the makeshift became sacred. In this sense, the city's very survival may be its greatest magic, the ability to transform from fragile refuge into enduring legend. This perspective reframes the founders not as grand architects, but as ordinary beings, flawed and frightened, clinging to survival. Their strength was not in cosmic power or ancient relics, but in resilience. In choosing to endure, to build together even in mistrust, they created something larger than themselves. Wizard City, then, is not the legacy of individuals, but of community. And that, perhaps, is why no founder's name is ever remembered. The city itself is the name. The city itself is the legacy. There are other stories, quieter ones, that suggest Wizard City predates even Ooh as we know it. Some whisper that it was not built in this world at all, but slipped into it from another. That one night, during a cosmic alignment long forgotten, a city of magic simply appeared where there had been none, its towers bent to strange stars, its wards humming with unfamiliar resonance. If this were true, then Wizard City is less a place built by mortals and more a visitor, an echo of another plane. Its founders, then, are not people to be remembered, but forces too vast to comprehend. This theory, while wild, carries a certain poetry, for Wizard City often feels less like a city and more like a dream caught in the waking world. And what of its place in the great timeline of Ooh? If it came before the Mushroom War, then it is one of the few remnants of the old age, carrying human ambition into a strange new form. If it came after, then it is a child of catastrophe, proof that even in ruin, creation persists. If it came from beyond, summoned or slipped through, then it is a reminder that Ooh is not alone, that its history is stitched together with threads from countless worlds. Each possibility deepens the city's mystery, reminding us that some questions are not meant to be answered, only contemplated. The people of Wizard City themselves seem to reflect this ambiguity. Ask a dozen wizards where the city came from, and you will hear a dozen different answers. Some will speak proudly of ancient councils. Others will mutter about cosmic bargains. A few will shrug, suggesting it does not matter. And perhaps they are right. For the city's true power lies not in its beginning, but in its continuation. Every apprentice who learns a spell, every duel fought in the square, every tower patched with fresh wards is part of its ongoing origin. The city is always beginning, always being founded anew. Still, the hints scattered throughout Adventure Time leave us wondering. The crookedness of the towers, the secrecy of its laws, the endless rivalries all feel like echoes of a forgotten moment when the city first emerged. To step into Wizard City is to step into that echo, to breathe in the weight of ages and feel that you are standing in a place where history and myth blur together. Perhaps that is the point. Wizard City may not want us to know its true origin. It may protect itself by obscuring the past, wrapping its beginning in layers of story until no single truth can be found. By doing so, it ensures that its mystery survives. After all, what is magic, if not the art of the unknown? To leave the question unanswered is to preserve the enchantment forever. And so we close this part of the story not with a single origin, but with many. A city of survivors, a refuge of exiles, a spell woven into being, a visitor from another world. Each version of the tale carries truth, and none cancel the others. Wizard City is all of them at once, a place that embodies the strange, contradictory beauty of ooh. When you picture the crooked towers under starlight, glowing faintly with wards older than memory, you are seeing not just stone and spellwork, but the layered dreams of all who came before. The founders are there, unnamed but present. In every rune and every rivalry, they may be gone, but their intention lingers, woven into the very breath of the city. And that is the hidden truth of Wizard City's origins. Its history is not a line, but a spiral, circling back upon itself, always reshaping, always retelling. The city does not need one beginning, because it is always beginning. And so long as its crooked towers rise and its duels echo across the square, Wizard City will remain alive, a spell that never truly ends. Wizard City does not run on thrones or crowns. There are no written constitutions, no royal decrees carved into stone. Instead, it breathes through rules that are never spoken, yet always understood. Step into the crooked streets, and you will feel them pressing against your skin, as sure as the hum of magic in the air. The first of these rules is respect, not the kind given freely, but the kind earned through demonstration. Wizards measure one another not by words or promises, but by what they can conjure. A spell cast cleanly, a duel fought bravely, a ward woven so tightly it hums for hours. These are the proofs that matter. You cannot walk through the city without others quietly weighing you, measuring the sparks that flicker around your fingers, the weight of your staff, the way your eyes catch the glow of runes. Power is currency here, and everyone knows it. The second rule is challenge. In Wizard City, you cannot refuse a duel forever. To turn away too often is to invite ridicule, and ridicule is as sharp as any blade. Yet these contests are not always about destruction. Sometimes a duel is more like a conversation, two spellcasters testing one another's rhythm, trading sparks in the air the way musicians trade notes. There is artistry in it, and often respect grows not from victory, but from the act of standing one's ground. Still, the danger is always real. A misstep, a spell cast without control, and the consequences may linger long after the crowd disperses. Apprentices learn these rules quickly. At Wizard School, lessons in spellcraft are only half the education. The other half comes in learning when to bow, when to speak, and when to stay silent. Teachers rarely explain this outright. Instead, the lessons unfold in glances, in gestures, in the weight of a pause. A master might assign an apprentice to polish grimoires, not because the books need shining, but because the task teaches humility. Another might summon a student into a mock duel without warning, simply to see if they hesitate. Wizard life is as much about these hidden tests as it is about learning how to shape magic itself. Another unspoken rule is secrecy. Wizards hoard their spells, their rituals, their grimoires. Sharing knowledge too freely is seen as weakness, as if a spell loses its power once too many know it. Apprentices whisper about forbidden sections of libraries, about locked chambers filled with scrolls bound in runes. Knowledge here is both treasure and weapon, and to give it away without reason is to betray yourself. Yet secrecy breeds paranoia. Rivalries simmer in the shadows, and alliances shift as often as the glow of lanterns in the night. It is a society held together by the delicate balance of what is revealed and what is hidden. Even in daily life, these rules show themselves. A shopkeeper may haggle not in coin, but in favors, asking for a small enchantment in return for a vial of powder. Neighbors greet one another not with handshakes, but with sparks of light, subtle displays to confirm identity. Taverns have their own customs. A wizard ordering without a spell woven into their request may find themselves ignored entirely. These details weave into a rhythm that outsiders struggle to understand. To live in Wizard City is to breathe magic constantly, to measure every interaction through the weight of power and ritual. But perhaps the most important unspoken rule is acceptance of risk. In Wizard City, magic is not safe. Everyone knows this, and everyone agrees silently to live with it. A miscast spell may set a street ablaze. A cursed object may slip loose and stalk the night until it is caught again. Duels can spiral out of control. Yet no one seeks to end this. To strip away the risk would be to strip away the essence of wizard life. Power means danger, and danger is part of belonging. Children of the city grow up with sparks around their beds, with the knowledge that missteps are inevitable. It is not fear that guides them, but familiarity. The risk is not something to be avoided, but something to live alongside. All of these rules shape the atmosphere of Wizard City. To walk its streets is to walk in a place where silence speaks louder than law, where a nod from a master is worth more than a proclamation, and where a single duel can shift the balance of respect for years. It is a city alive with performance, but also with restraint, every gesture charged with unspoken meaning. These unspoken rules shape every stage of a wizard's life, from the earliest days of apprenticeship to the long years of mastery. A child stepping into wizard school for the first time quickly discovers that survival depends not only on learning spells, but on sensing the invisible boundaries of the city's culture. Their teachers may scold them for sloppy incantations, but it is the side glances of fellow students, the way laughter echoes after a failed attempt, that truly teach them where they stand. This constant awareness creates a society of performance. Wizards are always on display, whether they want to be or not. To walk through the central square without showing a flicker of ability is to invite whispers. To hesitate when challenged is to mark yourself as prey for future rivals. And so even casual gestures become stagecraft. A wizard may light a lantern with unnecessary flourish, not because the spell demands it, but because the performance strengthens their standing. A teacher may hover inches above the ground while lecturing, not for comfort, but to remind students of their mastery. Life in Wizard City is a theater, and every spell is part of the script. This is not to say the rules are cruel, only that they are inescapable. For some, the constant need to prove oneself is exhilarating. For others, it is exhausting. Abracadaniel, for instance, often struggles with these expectations, his clumsy demeanor at odds with the city's unrelenting emphasis on power. Yet even he is bound by the same rules, forced to demonstrate respect when challenged, forced to endure ridicule when he falters. And in his survival there is a lesson that even the weakest wizard can belong, so long as they do not abandon the game entirely. Underlying all of this is a peculiar balance between rivalry and community. Duels may be fierce, but they rarely end in lasting grudges. Insults may sting, but they are often softened by shared understanding. Wizards know that they live in a fragile sanctuary, one that depends on their collective commitment to secrecy and survival. Too much hostility could tear the city apart. Too much openness could invite the outside world to intrude. And so the unspoken rules are designed to preserve the balance, encouraging conflict but containing it, fostering secrecy but never allowing it to collapse into isolation. Another rule, subtle but deeply ingrained, is the respect for tradition. Wizards may bicker endlessly, but they rarely break the rituals that hold the city together. Apprenticeship, dueling, secrecy, the constant testing of ability these customs endure because they are the foundation of Wizard City's identity. Even the most rebellious sorcerer follows them, perhaps grudgingly, because to reject them would be to reject the city itself. It is this devotion to tradition, more than any ward or spell, that binds Wizard City into coherence. Consider the way apprentices are initiated. It is never the same from one teacher to another, yet always guided by the same underlying current. Prove yourself. One might be tasked with carrying water from the river in a leaky enchanted bucket, forced to patch the spell while keeping the water intact. Another might be told to climb a tower whose stairs twist endlessly, each turn demanding a different incantation. These challenges are not about the tasks themselves, but about teaching the apprentice to endure, to adapt, to accept that life in Wizard City will never be straightforward. The rule is simple, though never spoken. Only those who can embrace the crooked path will survive here. Secrecy, too, plays its part in shaping daily interactions. A wizard may smile and share a drink at a tavern, but they will never reveal their strongest spells. Apprentices may work side by side, but each keeps a personal grimoire locked and hidden, its pages never shown to another. Even friendships exist within this boundary. To share too much is to risk betrayal, and to betray is to risk exile. It is a delicate balance, one that defines the rhythm of wizardly life. And yet, within this secrecy lies a kind of intimacy. To be trusted with a single spell, a single scrap of hidden knowledge, is to be invited into the deepest bond a wizard can offer. Secrets are more precious than gifts, more binding than promises. They shape alliances and rivalries alike, giving the city its ever-shifting, ever-surprising character. At its core, the culture of Wizard City is one of unspoken agreements. Everyone knows the rules, even if no one can list them. Everyone feels their weight, even when no one speaks them aloud. They exist not on parchment, but in gestures, in the crackle of spells, in the silence that lingers after a duel ends. The city endures because these rules endure, whispered through generations, never written, never forgotten. The taverns of Wizard City are perhaps the best places to see these rules at play. Step into one at dusk and you will notice the hum of voices, each conversation layered with unspoken meaning. Wizards exchange not just words but demonstrations, flicking sparks from their fingers or weaving illusions into the air as punctuation. Even ordering a drink is a performance. To conjure a glowing rune in the air to mark your request is a sign of confidence. To mutter too quietly or to fumble your incantation may draw smirks from across the room. Here even leisure is shaped by the invisible codes of respect and ability. The same is true of markets. Merchants haggle not in coins, but in enchantments, trading charms, wards, and curiosities that outsiders could never price. A bundle of glowing herbs may cost nothing in coin, but require the buyer to demonstrate a minor spell of preservation before the seller will hand it over. A bottle of shimmering dust might be offered only in exchange for a whispered secret. Commerce here is not simply about goods, but about reputation, about affirming one's place within the hierarchy of the city. Duels in the central square remain the most visible expression of the city's rules. They are never merely contests of strength. Each duel is layered with meaning, a challenge to authority, a settling of disputes, a performance for apprentices, a declaration of belonging. Sometimes they are playful, ending in bursts of colorful sparks that scatter like fireworks. Other times they are deadly serious, their echoes lingering in the cracked stones for days after. The unspoken rule is clear. You must face challenges when they come, for refusing is worse than defeat. In a place where strength is currency, to deny the game is to forfeit your place within it. But even duels are not purely destructive. They are also teaching moments. Apprentices gather to watch their masters clash, studying the rhythm of the incantations, the way spells weave together like threads of light. A duel is as much a lesson as a battle, and the crowd learns not only who is stronger, but how strength is displayed. For Wizard City, reputation is not built in isolation, but in the public eye, where every gesture becomes part of the shared memory of the community. Beyond dueling and commerce, there are subtler rules that define the city's daily rhythm. One is humility before elders. However eccentric or flawed a senior wizard may seem, their experience carries weight. Apprentices bow, masters nod in acknowledgement, and even rivals hesitate to openly insult those older than themselves. Age in Wizard City is not just time lived, but spells survived, dangers weathered, knowledge endured. To disrespect this is to invite isolation, for the city as a whole quietly enforces this courtesy. Another subtle rule is patience. Magic is dangerous and haste is rarely rewarded. Apprentices learn to wait through long silences, to hold their questions until the master chooses to answer. Markets may linger on a single bargain for hours, each side weaving charm after charm before settling. Even duels, though explosive, are preceded by long stretches of ritual preparation. This patience is not laziness, but reverence for the craft. To rush is to disrespect the art, and the city remembers such impatience. There is also the rule of appearances. No wizard may ever seem powerless. Even the weakest apprentice must find ways to show confidence, whether through exaggerated gestures, glowing charms pinned to their cloaks, or rehearsed incantations delivered with poise. It is less about true strength and more about the image of strength. To appear powerless is to invite challenge, and to invite challenge unprepared is to risk humiliation. Thus, Wizard City is filled with spectacle, each resident crafting their persona carefully, guarding it as closely as their grimoires. These rules extend beyond the streets and into the schools. Lessons are not confined to spells alone. Apprentices study etiquette, rivalry, performance. They are taught how to bow in duels, how to present themselves before elders, how to guard their secrets without appearing closed. These lessons are woven into the fabric of their education, shaping them into participants in the city's unending cycle of respect, challenge, secrecy, and performance. And so Wizard City continues, a place where rules are never written, but always felt. To live there is to live within this invisible framework, to learn the rhythm of duels, the silence of secrets, the spectacle of daily life. These unspoken codes preserve the balance of the city, ensuring that it remains both chaotic and stable, both dangerous and strangely comforting. Every lantern glowing in the crooked streets, every spell flickering in the square, every whisper exchanged in the markets, carries the weight of these rules. They are not chains, but threads, binding the city together in ways no outsider can fully grasp. To break them is to fall into obscurity, but to follow them is to belong, to step into the dreamlike rhythm that has sustained Wizard City for generations. If the written laws of the Candy Kingdom are neat lines on a page, and the fiery decrees of the Flame Kingdom are roaring declarations, then the laws of Wizard City are closer to a song. A melody passed from voice to voice, never quite the same, yet always recognizable. You cannot point to them, but you can feel them. And the longer you stay, the more clearly you hear their tune. Take, for instance, the rule of masks. Not masks in the literal sense, though enchanted masks are common enough in the crooked markets. This is the mask of demeanor, the careful crafting of identity. Wizards are never simply themselves, they are the selves they project. A wizard who trembles inwardly may cloak that fear in flamboyant spells. A wizard unsure of their place may exaggerate their gestures, draping themselves in robes stitched with unnecessary runes, speaking with a gravity they do not yet feel. The mask is not deception, but protection, a way of surviving in a city where power is everything. To reveal yourself too nakedly is dangerous, so the mask becomes second nature. Another of the city's quiet rules is reciprocity. Every favor given must one day be repaid. Every lesson shared balanced with loyalty, every secret offered safeguarded with silence. Nothing in Wizard City is truly free. Even kindness carries a price, though the price is not always cruel. Sometimes it is as simple as standing by a friend in their duel, or lending a charm when their own fails. These exchanges weave a web of debts and obligations that ties the city together. Break the balance, and you will soon find yourself shunned, your mask cracking, your power questioned. It is also unspoken that magic is never wasted. Spells are not toys, though they may look playful in the hands of someone like Abracadaniel. Each incantation carries weight, and to cast one idly is to reveal carelessness. Apprentices learn this quickly, often punished not for failure, but for frivolity. To expend magic is to show intention, and intention must always be clear. Even the smallest charm is watched, weighed, remembered. This rule fosters discipline, but it also fosters paranoia, for one never knows when a careless spark might be judged harshly. And yet, for all their caution, wizards embrace eccentricity. Perhaps this is the most contradictory of all their unspoken rules. You must guard your secrets, maintain your mask, prove your power, and still, you must be yourself in ways that are strange and dazzling. The city is alive with oddities, towers painted in impossible colors, familiars shaped like creatures out of half-forgotten dreams, wizards who walk backward for weeks at a time because they claim it sharpens their spell work. In Wizard City, to be ordinary is the only true taboo. Uniqueness is not only accepted but expected, a mark that you belong to a culture that thrives on the unpredictable. All of these rules, though never written, are deeply internalized. They are the quiet lessons whispered by masters to apprentices, the habits observed in markets and taverns, the rhythms absorbed from childhood. They are not chains, but currents, carrying each wizard along until they move with them without thought. To break them is not rebellion, but foolishness, for the city itself enforces them through silence, through ostracism. through the slow withering of reputation. Perhaps this is why Wizard City endures where so many other kingdoms of Ooh rise and fall. It does not need monarchs or armies, because its true governance lies in the invisible weight of tradition. These rules are flexible, yet firm, changing subtly with each generation, but never disappearing. They allow chaos to flourish while preventing it from tearing the city apart. They make room for rivalry, for secrecy, for performance, but always within boundaries that everyone feels even when no one speaks them. The unspoken rules also shape how the city interacts with the world beyond. Visitors may be tolerated, but they are always outsiders, forever clumsy in their ignorance of the codes. A traveler from Candy Kingdom may marvel at the markets, but they will not understand why a merchant refuses them without a demonstration of power. A warrior from another land may scoff at duels, not realizing that to laugh at such contests is to insult the very heart of wizard culture. Outsiders are never truly at home in Wizard City because they cannot hear the music of its unspoken laws. And so the city remains both open and closed, a place of dazzling lights and hidden shadows, welcoming to all who carry magic, but impenetrable to those who do not. Its crooked towers, its glowing wards, its bustling markets are only the surface. The true structure lies beneath, in the invisible threads of respect, challenge, secrecy, patience, and eccentricity that bind its people together. To live in Wizard City is to accept these rules not as burdens, but as the fabric of life. You breathe them in, carry them in your gestures, hear them in the silence after every duel. They are what keep the city whole, what give it rhythm, what preserve its dreamlike existence. And though no one can write them down, they are remembered endlessly, in the way lanterns glow over crooked streets and sparks flicker in the hands of children learning their first spells. The unspoken rules of Wizard City are not merely customs. They are its soul. If the unspoken rules are the quiet rhythm of Wizard City, then its rivalries are the thunder that occasionally breaks the sky. Every crooked tower, every marketplace corner, every echoing tavern holds the memory of feuds. They are the lifeblood of the city, pulsing through its streets like veins of fire. Rivalries are not accidents here. They are traditions, woven into daily life as surely as spellcraft itself. From the earliest days of apprenticeship, wizards learn that respect must be fought for. Lessons in spellcasting quickly become lessons in competition. One apprentice may sneak a glance at another's grimoire, only to find their own desk marked with hexes the next morning. A duel in the school courtyard may erupt over something as small as a spilled potion, yet the echoes of that quarrel can last for years. These rivalries shape not only reputations, but destinies, pushing students toward greatness or leaving them forever in the shadows. The rivalries do not vanish with age. Masters feud just as fiercely as apprentices, though their contests are subtler, laced with politics as much as power. A master may dismiss the spells of another during a lecture, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of apprentices. A rival may respond by spreading rumors, hinting at weaknesses or failures hidden in the past. These battles may never explode into open combat, yet the tension hums through the city like a string pulled taut, vibrating in every whispered conversation. Some rivalries are personal, born from slights and betrayals. Others are structural, passed down like heirlooms. There are towers that refuse to acknowledge one another, districts whose feuds stretch back generations. An apprentice who enters such a tower inherits not only their master's knowledge, but also their grudges, as if rivalry were a part of the curriculum. These conflicts become part of the city's very architecture. Streets curve to separate opposing factions. Taverns declare unspoken allegiances. Even the placement of lanterns at night can signal loyalty to one side or another. Yet rivalry in Wizard City is not always hateful. Often it is playful, even affectionate. Two wizards may duel 100 times, trading victories and defeats, yet share drinks together afterward. Their rivalry becomes a bond, a performance both participate in willingly, knowing that the contest sharpens them both. This is the paradox of Wizard City. Rivalry fuels conflict, but it also fuels connection. Without rivals, a wizard is adrift, lacking the tension that gives meaning to their craft. Still, there are rivalries that grow darker, stretching beyond the playful into the dangerous. These are the feuds whispered about in markets, the names apprentices dare not speak aloud. Stories tell of duels that ended in curses lasting generations, of entire families marked by spells that could never be undone. In these rivalries, there is no laughter afterward, only silence and avoidance. The city tolerates them, even as it fears them, because they are as much a part of wizard life as the friendlier contests. From these rivalries emerge factions, groups of wizards bound together by loyalty, necessity, or shared grudges. Some factions are informal, a cluster of apprentices supporting one another in school. Others are elaborate, secret orders meeting in hidden chambers beneath the square. These groups guard their spells jealously, trading secrets only within their circle. Their symbols may be subtle, a color worn, a rune scratched into stone, but their presence is felt everywhere. They shape the politics of the city, even when no one names them aloud. Factions rise and fall with time. One century may see the dominance of a cabal devoted to elemental magic, their influence shaping the very streets. Another may watch them crumble, replaced by illusionists who twist reality itself into their weapon. These shifts happen slowly, yet their ripples reach every corner of Wizard City. Apprentices choose allegiances carefully, knowing that the faction they join may guide their future or limit it forever. Despite their secrecy, these factions rarely seek to destroy one another outright. The city would not survive if any one group gained total control. Instead, balance is maintained through rivalry itself. Challenges, duels, political maneuvering, these become the tools by which factions test and restrain each other. It is a delicate dance, a web of conflict that paradoxically holds the city together. In this way, Wizard City thrives not in spite of its rivalries, but because of them. Every feud, every faction, every whispered alliance adds to its pulse. Without these tensions, the city would lose its spark. It is through rivalry that wizards prove themselves, through factions that they find belonging, and through conflict that the city endures. When you look at the characters we meet in Adventure Time, even briefly, you can see how these rivalries shape their lives. Abracadaniel, soft-hearted and awkward, is often laughed at by his peers. His rivalry is not with any single wizard, but with the city itself. The culture of performance and dueling does not suit him, yet he remains, enduring the ridicule because Wizard City is still his home. His resilience is quiet, but it demonstrates something important. Not every rivalry ends in destruction. Some are endured, lived with, carried like a weight that shapes one's character. Buffo, on the other hand, thrives in this environment. Scheming, sly, always aware of shifting alliances, he understands that survival in Wizard City requires more than just spellcraft. He knows how to play politics, how to exploit rivalries to his advantage. Buffo is not feared for his raw magical power, but for his cunning, for the way he weaves himself into the fractures of the city, strengthening his own position by feeding tension between others. His existence proves that factions are not only about magic, they are about influence, secrets, and timing. Then there is Ron James, perhaps the most ordinary seeming of the city's inhabitants. Yet even he navigates rivalries with care. His role as a family man contrasts with the chaos of wizard culture, but it does not remove him from it. He too must respect the unspoken rules, avoid provoking the wrong duels, maintain a balance between friendliness and caution. Ron James reminds us that not every wizard is a flamboyant master. Some are simply citizens, trying to live their lives within a city that thrives on conflict. For them, rivalries are less about personal ambition and more about survival, knowing who to avoid, who to greet politely, when to slip quietly away. Beyond individual, the city's factions take many forms. Some are loose alliances of apprentices banding together to protect one another from harsher rivals. Others are secretive cults devoted to particular branches of magic. Illusionists, elementalists, necromancers, potion makers, each group guards its knowledge, treating it as both weapon and identity. To join one of these factions is to take on their feuds as your own. An apprentice of the illusionist does not only learn tricks of light and shadow, they also inherit the centuries-old rivalry with potion makers, a feud whose origins are half forgotten, but whose bitterness still burns. The more dangerous factions are those that operate in true secrecy. They gather beneath the city in chambers carved with ancient runes, meeting by candlelight and speaking in low voices. These groups are rumored to deal in forbidden magic spells that twist bodies, curses that linger for generations, enchantments that reach into the very fabric of life and death. To oppose such a faction is dangerous, for their members may be anyone, hidden behind masks, both literal and figurative. Yet their presence is tolerated, even feared, because in Wizard City, even the most sinister group has its place in the balance of power. Duels between factions are rarely open wars. They are quieter, fought through apprentices, through sabotage, through the placement of wards that disrupt rival spell work. A market stall may suddenly close because its charms fail, sabotaged by a rival's hand. A tower may lean a little more dangerously after a night of unseen spellcasting. These are battles of patience and precision, conflicts carried out in shadows but felt by all, and when open clashes do erupt, they are remembered for decades, their scars etched into stone and story alike. Despite their secrecy, factions often define the life of the city. Apprentices who remain unaffiliated struggle to find protection. Masters without allies may find themselves isolated. Even taverns and shops quietly lean toward one faction or another, shaping the geography of Wizard City into a map of allegiances. Outsiders may see only crooked streets and glowing towers, but residents know where loyalties lie, where rivalries flare hottest, and where danger waits for the unwary. What is striking, though, is that these rivalries rarely destroy the city. Instead, they keep it alive. The constant tension forces wizards to remain sharp, to adapt, to refine their craft. It creates an atmosphere where complacency is impossible, where every spell cast is a statement, every duel a declaration. Wizard City survives not because it avoids conflict, but because it embraces it, weaving rivalry into its culture until it becomes inseparable from identity. And so the city breathes through this paradox. Rivalries divide, yet they bind. Factions clash, yet they maintain balance. Individuals feud bitterly, yet share drinks in the same taverns. The city thrives on this tension, a living embodiment of contradiction. To live in Wizard City is to accept that your place is never secure, that every friendship carries the seed of rivalry, and that every victory may one day be overturned. And strangely, it is this uncertainty that makes the city endure. If you listen closely to the conversations drifting through the crooked alleys, you will hear the same names whispered again and again. Some belong to current masters, others to long-dead figures whose feuds are still carried on by their apprentices. In Wizard City, a rivalry never truly dies. It passes like a torch, carried forward by those who inherit both knowledge and grudges. Entire generations grow up defined by disputes they never started, fighting battles whose origins are as much legend as fact. There are stories of two towers that face each other across a narrow street, their windows perpetually glowing with the aftershocks of competing enchantments. One tower leans slightly toward the other, as if straining against a spell. The other responds with wards etched into its very walls, shimmering faintly even in daylight. The apprentices who live there are bound to hostility not of their own making, caught in the echo of a feud centuries old. Yet they play their roles eagerly, dueling in the square, muttering insults in taverns, weaving their lives into the rivalry as if it were a rite of passage. This inheritance of conflict extends beyond towers. Some factions claim entire districts, their banners hidden in the patterns of lanterns, their allegiances carved into runes that only the trained eye can read. To walk through these districts is to feel the shift in atmosphere. One street may hum with illusions, every shadow alive with trickery. Another may reek of potions, glass bottles clinking in hidden workshops, strange fumes curling into the night air. Each district is both a sanctuary and a challenge, welcoming to allies but hostile to intruders. Outsiders wander these streets at their peril, for even a careless glance can be interpreted as disrespect, and disrespect is rarely forgiven. There are also rivalries tied not to towers or districts, but to philosophies of magic itself. Some wizards dedicate themselves to elemental forces, shaping fire, water, air, and earth into weapons and wards. Others see such devotion as primitive, favoring illusions that bend perception, or necromancy that reaches beyond death. Each philosophy carries pride. Each considers itself superior. Their debates fill classrooms, taverns, and dueling squares alike, often spilling into contests of power. These rivalries are not simply personal. They are ideological, shaping the direction of Wizard City as a whole. Despite the fierceness of these divisions, alliances do form. A necromancer and an illusionist may set aside their rivalry to oppose a common enemy. Two towers locked in feud for decades may suddenly unite against a faction threatening their shared interests. These alliances are rarely permanent, but they demonstrate the city's strange resilience. Rivalries divide, yet they also provide the framework for unity when it becomes necessary. In this way, the city bends without breaking, its conflicts both its greatest weakness and its greatest strength. Some of the darkest tales speak of rivalries that escaped even these boundaries. Stories tell of curses that stretch beyond the city walls, following their targets into the wider world of One tale describes a wizard who fled his faction only to find his dreams haunted by spectral figures, shadows of rivals who would not let him go. Another speaks of a feud so destructive it threatened to collapse an entire district, the towers crumbling under the weight of unleashed magic until the elders intervened. These stories are warnings, reminders that rivalry is a fire that must be tended carefully, lest it consume all. Yet even in these warnings there is admiration. Wizards respect those who pursue their rivalries with intensity, who refuse to yield. To hold a grudge with consistency is considered a kind of strength. The city admires not only the victor of a duel, but the rival who returns again and again, refusing to be extinguished. Persistence is honored even in defeat, for it keeps the culture alive. In this sense, rivalry is not merely conflict. It is devotion, proof of commitment to the city's unspoken laws. For outsiders, these rivalries seem bewildering, even dangerous. But for those who live within Wizard City, they are the heartbeat of daily life. Apprentices gossip about them, tavern-goers wager on their outcomes, elders quietly shape them from the shadows. The city thrives on this endless interplay, its crooked towers humming with anticipation of the next contest, the next factional clash, the next name whispered into legend. Wizard City is not peaceful. It was never meant to be. It is a place where rivalry sharpens, where factions balance, where feuds sustain the rhythm of the streets. And in that tension, the city finds its strength. It is the contradictions, hostility and camaraderie, secrecy and performance, rivalry and alliance that keep it whole. There are nights in Wizard City when the rivalries feel almost tangible, as though the air itself vibrates with tension. Lanterns sway more sharply, wards glow a little brighter, and the crooked towers seem to lean closer to one another, listening for the first spark of conflict. These are the nights when apprentices whisper that something is about to break, when factions gather in hidden corners to reaffirm their loyalties, and when the city waits with bated breath for a duel that will tilt the balance of power once again. On such nights, even the taverns grow quiet, though not with peace. Conversations hush when a rival steps through the door, the clink of bottles replaced by the sharp rustle of cloaks. Apprentices glance to their masters for cues, trying to gauge whether tonight will bring a clash or a truce. Sometimes nothing happens, the tension dispersing like mist as both sides retreat into silence. Other times, the city explodes into color, sparks flaring against the midnight sky as spells are hurled back and forth until exhaustion forces both sides to stop. These eruptions are dangerous, but they are also cathartic, the pressure of countless grudges finally released in spectacle. The elders of the city understand this pattern. They do not outlaw rivalries or factions, for to do so would be to suffocate the very essence of wizard life. Instead, they manage them quietly, allowing feuds to burn but ensuring they do not consume too much at once. Sometimes they intervene with subtle gestures, redirecting apprentices toward safer challenges. Other times they simply watch, knowing that rivalry itself is the forge through which Wizard City's culture is continually renewed. Their silence is not neglect, but wisdom born from centuries of experience. The city survives because its rivalries are never fully suppressed, only shaped. This shaping is visible in the way duels are ritualized. Even the most violent feud must bow to custom. A challenger must declare their intent. A circle must be drawn. Spells must begin with formality, even if they end in chaos. These rituals ensure that rivalry remains bound within a framework. Dangerous but contained, destructive but survivable. Without them, Wizard City might have torn itself apart long ago. Instead, the rules of rivalry weave chaos into order, preserving the city's strange equilibrium. And what of the factions that seem to vanish, swallowed by time? Their stories never truly end. Even when a group dissolves, their influence lingers in the wards etched into walls, in the lessons passed down through apprentices, in the grudges remembered by those who fought them. The city does not forget. Every corner, every crooked tower carries echoes of past conflicts. A visitor may walk down a quiet street and see only empty windows, but a resident knows that the silence itself is charged with memory. Rivalries do not die here. They sink into the foundations, waiting to be awakened. This eternal cycle gives Wizard City a peculiar sense of immortality. While other kingdoms of rise and fall with their rulers, Wizard City endures because its identity does not rest on individuals. It rests on the interplay of conflict and balance, on the endless dance of rivalry and alliance. The names may change, the factions may shift, but the rhythm remains. It is this rhythm that binds the city together, that allows it to stand crooked yet unbroken through centuries of chaos. For the wizards themselves, to live within this rhythm is both burden and blessing. Rivalries demand vigilance, factions demand loyalty, and every duel risks humiliation or worse. Yet these same tensions provide meaning. To have a rival is to have purpose. To belong to a faction is to have family, however fragile or conditional. In a world where magic is dangerous and uncertain, rivalry offers clarity. It tells a wizard who they are, where they stand, what they must fight for. It is exhausting, yes, but it is also defining. Outsiders may shake their heads, wondering why such a culture persists. Why cling to grudges? Why live in a constant state of conflict? The answer lies in the very soul of Wizard City. Rivalry is not merely conflict here. It is connection. It is the thread that ties individuals to the larger whole, that ensures no one ever truly stands alone. Even enemies are bound together by the energy of their opposition. Even the darkest feud is, in its own way, a form of belonging. And so the city endures, leaning towers and glowing wards, standing as monuments not to harmony, but to tension held in balance. Rivalries spark, factions shift, duels blaze and fade. But through it all, Wizard City lives. Its crooked streets hum with anticipation, its taverns whisper with secrets, its markets shimmer with allegiances unseen. To step into Wizard City is to step into this eternal contest, to feel yourself pulled into the rhythm of rivalry that has defined the city since its first crooked tower rose. This is the paradox at the heart of Wizard City. Conflict is not a flaw, but a foundation. Rivalries do not divide it, they sustain it. Factions do not weaken it, they strengthen its resilience. The city does not survive in spite of its rivalries. It survives because of them. And in that survival, it whispers a truth that few outsiders can understand, that sometimes it is the tension between us, not the peace, that keeps the story alive. The Mushroom War was a storm that shattered the world. Where once there had been cities of glass and steel, there were now broken ruins. Where once science reigned, now strange forces seeped from the cracks, bending life into unfamiliar shapes. The world of was born from this collapse, and in that rebirth, Wizard City found itself changed forever. We do not know exactly how the war touched Wizard City, but the silence around it feels heavy, as though the city itself prefers to keep those memories hidden. Some say it was spared by powerful wards woven into its foundations, shields that bent fire and fall out away. Others believe the city was not spared at all, but broken. Its towers toppled and its wizards scattered, forced to rebuild slowly in the centuries that followed. Perhaps the truth is both survival, but survival scarred. What is certain is that the war altered the balance between magic and the rest of the world. When technology crumbled, magic became a new language of survival. For the wizards of Wizard City, this was both a burden and an opportunity. On one hand, they carried the responsibility of power in a fractured land. On the other, they gained influence. Their arts no longer dismissed as eccentricities, but needed for rebuilding, for protection, for shaping the strange new ooh. Imagine the city in those first years after the war. The sky darkened with ash, the land beyond its wards scarred and unrecognizable. Wizards walking the crooked streets with quiet purpose, their cloaks drawn tight, their spells carrying the weight of survival rather than spectacle. Apprentices tasked not with playful exercises, but with binding wounds, purifying water, shielding towers from poison winds. Magic was no longer simply a measure of respect within the city. It became a lifeline, both for the wizards themselves and for the scattered survivors who sought refuge within their walls. Yet with power came fear. Survivors from beyond the city would have looked upon Wizard City with awe but also suspicion. To see sparks flying from a wizard's hands in the ruins of the world would be to see both salvation and danger. Did the wizards embrace these outsiders, or did they keep to themselves, guarding their secrets as jealously as ever? It is hard to say. Perhaps they did both, offering aid where it benefited them, retreating into secrecy when it threatened their balance. The rivalries of Wizard City, too, must have taken on a sharper edge. Duels once fought for pride would have carried higher stakes when resources were scarce. Factions would have competed not only for reputation, but for survival, for food, for safe towers, for the rare materials that allowed their magic to endure. These conflicts may have hardened the city, deepening its culture of secrecy and challenge, and yet they also kept the city alive, for in contest there is growth, and Wizard City grew strong even in the shadow of devastation. Some whisper that the Mushroom War itself awakened new forms of magic, energies released in the cataclysm that seeped into the bones of the world. If this is true, then Wizard City would have been one of the first to feel it, its wards humming with unfamiliar frequencies, its apprentices experimenting with powers no one had ever seen before. The crooked towers, already strange, may have warped further under these energies, bending into the dreamlike shapes we see today. The city itself may be as much a survivor of the war as the people who live in it. And then there is the question of knowledge. Did Wizard City hoard the secrets of the old world, salvaging artifacts and scrolls from the ruins? Or did it deliberately turn away, focusing only on the present, fearful that too much curiosity would awaken the same forces that had destroyed the world? Perhaps this explains why the city feels at once ancient and whimsical, carrying the echoes of lost wisdom, but refusing to let them dominate daily life. The past lingers, but it does not rule. What seems clear is that after the war, Wizard City's identity became fixed. Where other kingdoms of ooh rose from the ashes with bold declarations of candy or fire, Wizard City embraced its dual nature, secretive yet central, chaotic yet balanced. It learned to exist on the edge of the world's memory, never fully open, never fully hidden. In this way, it ensured its survival. For in a world as fragile as ooh, to be too visible is to invite danger, but to be too hidden is to fade away. Wizard City chose the middle path, and that choice has defined it ever since. The scars of the Mushroom War were not only carved into the land, but into the way Wizard City viewed itself. Before the cataclysm, wizards may have seen their craft as a pursuit of curiosity, prestige, or even vanity. Afterward, magic was a burden. To cast a spell was no longer to entertain or impress, but to protect, to heal, to shield. The crooked towers, which once hummed with eccentric experimentation, became sanctuaries. Their wards stretched outward like hands held against the ruin. We can imagine the apprentices of that era walking through ash-stained courtyards with their grimoires pressed tightly against their chests. Their lessons focused not on fireworks of light, but on purification charms, healing rituals, and wards against unseen poisons. Their teachers, weary but determined, would have impressed upon them the gravity of their role. Theirs was no longer a game of rivalries and duels. It was a matter of survival, not only for themselves, but for any who sought shelter within the city's walls. And yet, rivalry never vanished. In times of scarcity, it sharpened. When clean water was precious, when spell reagents were rare, when towers cracked under the weight of corrupted winds, factions turned their strength against one another as often as they did against the world outside. To control a well was to control power. To master a new protective spell was to secure loyalty. Wizard City may have stood, but its crooked streets would have echoed with both cooperation and conflict, survival and betrayal. It is tempting to wonder whether the war unified Wizard City, drawing its wizards together in shared struggle. But if history teaches us anything about the city, it is that unity in Wizard City is always fleeting, fragile, and often built atop rivalry rather than in place of it. Perhaps the greatest achievement of this era was not unity, but endurance, the ability to continue existing despite the pressures that might have broken it apart. The war also altered the city's relationship with the outside world. When survivors stumbled into Wizard City's glow, did the wizards welcome them? Some must have, offering shelter in exchange for loyalty or service. Others surely turned them away, fearful of exposing their secrets or overburdening their wards. The city would have been both refuge and fortress, opening its crooked gates to some while slamming them shut to others. To the desperate, Wizard City might have seemed like salvation. To the rejected, it might have appeared cruel, a city of power unwilling to share. Both perceptions may have been true, depending on which side of the gates you stood. In the centuries that followed, these choices shaped the way other kingdoms viewed Wizard City. To some, it became a place of wonder, a sanctuary where magic flourished while the rest of the world struggled to rebuild. To others, it was a reminder of exclusion, a city that survived by guarding its secrets too closely. Even in the age of Princess Bubblegum and the Fire Kingdom, Wizard City retained this dual reputation, admired for its knowledge, distrusted for its secrecy. There is also the question of how the war changed the very essence of magic. When the bombs fell, they did not only destroy, they unleashed forces no one could predict. Some say the radiation of the old world fused with the arcane energies already present in Oo, creating new schools of magic, strange hybrids that had never existed before. If this is true, then Wizard City was at the epicenter of this transformation. Its wards may have absorbed those energies, its towers may have twisted under their influence, its apprentices may have discovered new spells by accident, sometimes wondrous, sometimes disastrous. Perhaps this is why Wizard City today feels both ancient and unstable, both timeless and fragile. Its foundations are old, but its towers lean in ways that suggest constant reshaping. The very air vibrates with an energy that feels unpredictable, as though the city itself has never fully recovered from the cataclysm. Wizards live with this instability, shaping their culture around it, embracing risk as part of life because their home itself embodies risk. The Mushroom War did not only scar Wizard City, it defined it. The city that stands now is not simply the product of eccentric wizards weaving spells. It is the descendant of survival, of resilience in the face of destruction, of secrecy born from necessity. Every crooked stone, every glowing ward, every whispered rivalry carries the memory of a world that ended and a city that refused to fall. In the centuries after the war, as the kingdoms of slowly began to rise from the ashes, Wizard City found itself in a strange position. It was not like the Candy Kingdom, built upon optimism and community. Nor was it like the Fire Kingdom, defined by raw elemental survival. Wizard City carried the weight of something older and more ambiguous. It was both fortress and archive, a city of secrets that chose not to govern others but to watch from the sidelines, guarding its own balance. This distance created tension. To rulers struggling to rebuild, Wizard City could have been an ally, yet the wizards rarely offered open support. Their rivalries consumed them. Their secrecy bound them. They preferred to preserve their crooked sanctuary rather than risk its stability by entangling themselves too deeply in the politics of the wider world. At times, this caution was wise. At others, it sowed resentment. Some kingdoms may have seen Wizard City as arrogant, withholding its knowledge when the world needed it most. But perhaps Wizard City's restraint was itself a kind of wisdom. The Mushroom War had been a war of unchecked ambition, of technologies pushed too far, of powers unleashed without consideration. The wizards who survived may have carried this lesson in their bones, that to interfere too greatly was to invite catastrophe once again. Better, then, to keep to their crooked streets, to focus on their own rituals, to ensure their survival before offering aid to others. It was not kindness, but it was survival, and in survival is often the most that can be asked. Even so, Wizard City was never fully isolated. Its magic seeped outward, carried in artifacts, in wandering apprentices, in whispers of forbidden knowledge. Travelers might stumble upon a cursed object in a ruin, only to trace its origins back to a careless wizard's experiment. Heroes might seek out the city's masters in times of need, hoping to learn spells that could tip the balance in their quests. In this way, Wizard City remained connected to the wider world, not through armies or treaties, but through the steady trickle of magic flowing outwards. Inside the city, the war had left its mark in subtler ways. Rivalries that once revolved around pride now revolved around survival. A feud might erupt not over insult, but over access to scarce resources, over the right to study a fragment of ancient technology salvaged from the ruins. Factions shifted as new philosophies of magic emerged, shaped by the strange energies left behind by the war. Some sought to harness these new forces boldly, eager to expand the boundaries of spellcraft. Others warned against such recklessness, fearing that the very energies that had destroyed the old world might consume again. This ideological divide gave rise to some of the fiercest rivalries in the city's history. The physical city, too, bore the weight of the war. Its towers leaned more sharply, some cracked down the middle, and held together by glowing wards that hummed day and night. Streets curved around craters that had never fully healed, their scars woven into the city's design. Apprentices grew up playing near these scars, treating them not as disasters, but as part of the natural landscape of their home. In this way, the memory of the Mushroom War was never distant in Wizard City. It lived in stone and spell alike, a constant reminder of the fragility of all things. Despite these scars, or perhaps because of them, Wizard City grew into a place of paradoxical strength. It was fragile, yet enduring, chaotic, yet stable. It had no ruler, no throne, no armies, yet it survived when so many kingdoms crumbled. The unspoken rules, the rivalries, the factions, all of these became not just traditions, but survival strategies, shaped and sharpened in the aftermath of the war. Wizard City did not thrive because it avoided conflict, but because it embraced it. learning to balance chaos with ritual, danger with secrecy, rivalry with community. For the people of the city became a symbol of mystery. Some saw it as a beacon of power, others as a nest of danger. Its reputation was contradictory, but that very contradiction gave it strength. Wizards were respected and feared in equal measure, their crooked city a reminder that magic was both salvation and threat. And perhaps this duality was exactly what the survivors of the war intended. Wizard City was not meant to be simple. It was meant to endure, to adapt, to carry forward the lessons of a world that had already burned once before. As the centuries unfolded, Wizard City settled into its peculiar rhythm, shaped as much by what it chose not to do as by what it did, while the Candy Kingdom expanded outward with diplomacy and construction, while the Fire and Ice Kingdoms forged their identities through elemental dominion. Wizard City remained inward, protective, its strength hidden within crooked walls. This was not weakness, but design. The war had taught the wizards that survival was not found in conquest, but in endurance, in preserving what could so easily be lost again. The city's resilience became almost mythic. Tales spread of wards that had turned aside firestorms, of towers that had leaned but never fallen, of spells whispered in the dark that shielded the city while the outside world burned. Whether these tales were true mattered less than the feeling they left behind, that Wizard City was unbreakable, not because it was flawless, but because it knew how to bend without shattering. Every cracked stone, every glowing rune etched into a scarred wall became a symbol of survival. Inside its streets, the apprentices of later generations carried the memory of the war in ways subtle and profound. Teachers reminded them that every spell was born from necessity, not vanity. The crooked towers became classrooms of caution, where students were told that power was both gift and danger, that recklessness had once destroyed the world and could do so again. Rivalries continued, but beneath their sparks lingered the shadow of history, a reminder that destruction was always closer than it seemed. And yet, even in this solemnity, Wizard City never lost its eccentric charm. Markets filled again with glowing potions and enchanted trinkets. Taverns buzzed with laughter, their walls etched with wards to contain the occasional misfired spell. Children grew up chasing enchanted sparks through the alleys, their laughter blending with the hum of wards that had once shielded against death. Life returned crooked and whimsical, even as the scars of the Mushroom War remained etched into the very bones of the city. This was Wizard City's greatest resilience, the ability to transform survival into culture, to turn scars into traditions, to weave history into daily life. Beyond its walls, the city's role was more ambiguous. Other kingdoms respected Wizard City but rarely trusted it fully. Its secrecy bred suspicion. Its rivalries made alliances fragile. Yet no kingdom could ignore it. Wizards wandered into the world carrying fragments of its knowledge. Artifacts slipped from its vaults into the wider and heroes sometimes sought out its masters in desperate times. The city's influence was never direct, but it was undeniable, seeping into like mist through cracks. Wizard City did not rule, but it shaped the world nonetheless. For the wizards themselves, the legacy of the Mushroom War lived in quiet choices. They maintained their secrecy not only out of tradition, but because they remembered what happened when power was unrestrained. They dueled fiercely, but always within the boundaries of ritual, because they knew unchecked rivalry could destroy more than towers. They embraced eccentricity, because survival in a broken world had taught them the difference was not weakness, but strength. Every crooked stone and every unspoken rule was a lesson carried forward, a way of ensuring that the mistakes of the past would never fully repeat. And so Wizard City, after the Great War, became what it is today. A city of contradictions, fragile yet enduring, eccentric yet solemn, chaotic yet bound by invisible order. It is a survivor, not because it conquered, but because it remembered. In its rivalries and its secrets, in its leaning towers and glowing wards, it carries the echo of a world that burned and the determination never to fall the same way again. For those who walk its streets now, that history is always present. You feel it in the way lanterns flicker over scarred stones, in the way elders watch duels with weary eyes, in the way apprentices are taught not only spells but caution. Wizard City is not only a place of magic, it is a place of memory, a place that endured the Great War, learned from it, and built itself into something crooked yet unbreakable. This is the legacy of Wizard City after the war. Not triumph, not conquest, but survival, a crooked survival that, like its leaning towers, continues to stand, no matter how the world bends around it. Wizard City may be hidden away, but its influence is felt far beyond its crooked towers. It is not only a place, but an idea, a reminder that magic in Ooh is both ancient and ever-changing, dangerous and wondrous, feared and sought after. Its legacy is scattered through stories, artifacts, and the memories of those who dared to enter its winding streets. To speak of Wizard City is to speak of mystery itself and to acknowledge that Ooh's survival has always rested on powers that few truly understand. For the people of Ooh, Wizard City stands as a symbol of both allure and caution. To some, it is a beacon, proof that knowledge and power can endure even when kingdoms fall. To others, it is a warning, a city of secrets whose rivalries and experiments could unravel the world again if left unchecked. This duality is its inheritance from the Mushroom War, but also its enduring contribution to the present. It reminds every kingdom that magic is not tame, that it cannot be folded neatly into order, that it always carries shadows alongside its light. The mysteries of Wizard City are endless. Who truly founded it? What ancient bargains protect its walls? Why does it endure when so many other places crumble? Some say the city itself is a lie, that the crooked towers lean not only because of clumsy architecture, but because they shift in response to forces unseen. Others believe the city is a nexus, a place where dimensions brush against one another, where wizards draw their power not only from Ooh, but from realms beyond. If this is true, then Wizard City is not merely part of Ooh's landscape. It is a doorway, a threshold between worlds. There are whispers of hidden vaults beneath the streets, libraries older than the Mushroom War, guarded by spells that can erase memory or twist time. Apprentices tell ghost stories of forbidden halls where shadows walk on their own, where scrolls mutter curses when opened, where the walls themselves seem to breathe. These tales blur the line between legend and truth, but that is the nature of Wizard City's legacy. It thrives on uncertainty, feeding its aura of mystery by refusing to reveal itself fully. In this way, the city ensures it will always be more than stone and spellwork. It becomes a myth, a living riddle woven into Ooh's history. The role of wizardry in Ooh reflects the same paradox. Wizards are respected, but never fully trusted. They are sought after for their power, yet feared for their unpredictability. A wizard may be called upon to heal, to protect, to guide, but they may also be shunned for meddling in forces beyond comprehension. This tension defines their place in the world. They are necessary, but they are never comfortable. They walk the line between savior and threat, belonging everywhere and nowhere. And perhaps that is why Wizard City has remained separate. Unlike the Candy Kingdom, it does not seek allies. Unlike the Fire Kingdom, it does not expand. Unlike the Ice Kingdom, it does not dominate through a single ruler. Wizard City survives by being apart, by letting others come to it rather than forcing itself outward. This independence is both its greatest strength and its most enduring mystery. It is a reminder that sometimes survival is found not in joining the crowd, but in guarding one's secrets, crooked though they may be. To speak of its legacy is also to speak of its teachers. Generations of apprentices have passed through its halls, carrying fragments of the city into the wider world. Some become heroes, some villains, some vanish into obscurity. But each carries with them the mark of Wizard City, the lessons of rivalry, secrecy, and resilience. In this way, the city's influence stretches far beyond its walls, shaping through the lives of those it sends forth. Wizard City's mysteries, its rivalries, its survival after the war, all of these form a legacy that is less about answers and more about questions. And in where every corner hides something strange, it is perhaps fitting that Wizard City remains the strangest of all. The cosmic possibilities of Wizard City's existence invite endless speculation. If the city truly is a nexus, then its crooked towers may be more than dwellings. They may be antennas, drawing power from unseen planes, channels through which energies of the multiverse flow into Perhaps this is why the streets hum as though alive, why wards carved into old stone seem to pulse with their own heartbeat. In this vision, Wizard City is not simply a settlement. It is a tuning fork for reality, resonating with forces far older than the kingdoms that now surround it. The wizards themselves sometimes speak of dreams that do not feel like dreams, nights when they walk through endless halls of starlight, or when they glimpse figures that do not belong to their world. They return with fragments of knowledge, new spells that cannot be explained but somehow work. Could these dreams be the city itself speaking to them? Or are they glimpses of the multiverse, granted by a place that sits closer to the veil than any other? These questions remain unanswered, but the mystery itself is part of Wizard City's power. By never fully revealing its truth, it keeps even its own inhabitants searching, striving, never complacent. Outside of cosmic whispers, the city's legacy is also seen in the way wizards influence the wider kingdoms. Heroes like Finn and Jake often encounter them, sometimes as allies, sometimes as obstacles. Abracadaniel, despite his clumsiness, embodies the softer side of Wizard City's culture kindness, surviving beneath layers of ridicule. Bufo shows its cunning, weaving alliances and rivalries like a spider spinning its web. Ron James represents its ordinariness, a reminder that not every wizard is a master of grandeur, that even in a city of secrets, there are those who simply wish to live quietly. Each of these figures carries a fragment of the city's legacy outward, showing the many faces of wizardry. Kingdoms respond to these faces with a mixture of fascination and fear. Princess Bubblegum, ever the scientist, treats wizards with caution, respecting their power but wary of their unpredictability. The Fire Kingdom, steeped in its own elemental traditions, sees them as outsiders whose methods are both strange and threatening. Even the Ice King, himself a tragic figure of magic, is shaped by this legacy. His crown a relic of power not unlike those hidden in Wizard City's vaults. In this way, the city's influence ripples outward, shaping the way all of perceives magic. Its mysteries, however, remain most powerful within. There are rumors of secret chambers deep beneath the city where spells from the earliest days of Ooh are stored, locked away not because they are useless, but because they are too dangerous to use. Apprentices dare each other to seek them out, whispering about wards that erase memory or illusions that trap you forever. Whether these vaults exist or not, the belief in them reinforces the city's aura. Wizard City thrives not on clarity, but on rumor, not on answers, but on the weight of questions left lingering. And perhaps this is the true legacy of Wizard City. It teaches Ooh to live with mystery. Where other kingdoms build walls or forge armies, Wizard City builds questions, wrapping its identity in secrecy until it becomes impossible to know where the truth ends and the legend begins. This lesson seeps outward. Heroes who pass through the city often leave not with clarity, but with more wonder, more curiosity, more awareness of the strange fabric of their world. Wizard City is less a place of solutions and more a reminder that some things are meant to remain unknowable. In the quiet hours of night, when the crooked towers glow softly under the stars, you can almost feel this lesson in the air. The city whispers that not all mysteries are meant to be solved, and not all legacies are meant to be clear. Some exist only to be lived, to be carried forward in the questions we ask and the wonder we feel. To understand Wizard City's place in Ooh, one must look beyond towers and spells, beyond rivalries and duels, and see how it functions almost as a spiritual anchor. For in a world remade by chaos, Wizard City represents continuity. The crooked stones and glowing wards remind the people of Ooh that not everything was erased by the Mushroom War. Some knowledge endured, some traditions survived, carried forward by those who refused to let the old ways vanish. In this sense, Wizard City is less a kingdom and more a memory given form, a living reminder of what came before. But its role is not simply to preserve. Wizard City is also a crucible, constantly reshaping what it means to practice magic. The unspoken rules of rivalry and secrecy ensure that no spell remains static for long. Each generation reinvents itself, apprentices testing boundaries, masters refining their arts, factions shifting alliances. This restless evolution means the city is always both ancient and new. Its legacy never fixed, but constantly remade. Its crooked streets are history, yet every spark of magic cast upon them writes another chapter. This constant reinvention gives the city a paradoxical stability. Other kingdoms may falter when rulers fall or when disasters strike, but Wizard City absorbs change into its very rhythm. Rivalries become tradition. Accidents become new schools of magic. Even catastrophes are folded into its culture. The city survives not by resisting change, but by embracing it, twisting like its towers, bending without breaking. In this, its legacy becomes a lesson for all of Ooh. Survival is not found in rigidity, but in the ability to bend with the storm. Its mysteries, however, ensure that Wizard City never loses its aura of danger. The vaults whispered about, the wards that seem to listen, the dreams of other worlds, all these ensure that the city remains just out of reach, even for those who live within it. A resident may walk the same street every day of their life, yet still feel that the city is holding something back, something deeper. This sense of hidden truth fuels the culture of secrecy, reminding every wizard that knowledge is both treasure and temptation. The greatest mystery of Wizard City may be that it is not meant to be fully understood, even by its own people. The Place of Wizardry in Ooh reflects this balance between memory and mystery. Wizards are not rulers, yet they shape history. They are not warriors, yet their power influences battles. They are not priests, yet their rituals feel deeply spiritual. They occupy a space that defies easy categories, reminding everyone that Ooh is not only made of candy, fire, or stone, but also of the unseen, the arcane, the forces that linger beyond comprehension. Wizardry is the reminder that reality itself is flexible, and Wizard City is the heart where that truth beats loudest. For the ordinary folk of Ooh, the city remains more rumor than reality. Few ever see its crooked streets, yet all know its reputation. To some, it is a place of wonder, where heroes may learn spells to aid their quests. To others, it is a place of dread, where shadows breed and curses are born. This dual image ensures that Wizard City remains powerful even in absence. It does not need to extend its influence directly. The very idea of it is enough to shape how others see magic. In this way, the city's greatest legacy may not be its spells or its rivalries, but the feeling it inspires, that magic is never fully safe, never fully knowable, never fully contained. Wizard City embodies this truth, teaching Ooh that to live alongside magic is to accept uncertainty. That lesson endures, carried in every duel, every whispered rumor, every crooked tower leaning against the night sky. When we step back and look at Wizard City from afar, its crooked towers silhouetted against the sky, we see more than a collection of buildings. We see a story still unfolding, a city that carries the weight of ages yet continues to shift and breathe like a living spell. Its legacy is not a single truth, but a web of contradictions, each thread humming with memory and mystery. It is a city of shadows, but also of sparks, a place of rivalries, yet also of unlikely friendships, a hub of secrecy, yet a beacon of influence that stretches far beyond its walls. Wizard City does not choose one face, for it is all of these at once. Its strength lies in the way it holds contradictions together, never collapsing into certainty, always keeping the mystery alive. And what of its future? Perhaps one day the wards will falter, the crooked towers finally leaning too far. Perhaps one day its secrets will spill into the open, changing Ooh forever. Or perhaps it will endure endlessly, adapting as it always has, reshaping itself with each generation, bending with the storms but never breaking. The city's survival has never depended on perfection. It has depended on resilience, on the unspoken agreement that even in conflict, even in secrecy, Wizard City must live. For the apprentices who walk its streets now, every spark they cast, every secret they guard, every rivalry they inherit, is part of that continuation. They may not know the true origins of their home, but they do not need to. The city itself carries that memory, written into stone and ward, whispered in the crackle of magic that hums through every crooked street. Each apprentice adds their own note to the song, their own shadow to the city's story. For the rest of Ooh, Wizard City will always remain a mystery glimpsed from the outside, a place half feared, half admired, where magic is alive in ways that defy understanding. Heroes may come and go, artifacts may slip into the wider world, but the heart of Wizard City will always remain hidden, guarded by rivalries and silence, thriving in its crooked balance. Its role is not to rule Ooh, but to remind it, to remind the world that not all things can be tamed, that some powers must remain unpredictable, that mystery itself is a kind of survival. And for us, drifting now into sleep, Wizard City becomes something else entirely. A dreamscape of crooked towers glowing under starlight. A marketplace where potions whisper as you pass, where duels spark like fireworks in the square, where secrets breathe in the walls. A city alive with wonder, but also with caution, teaching us gently that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to honor. Its legacy is not a crown or a throne, but a feeling, the hum of magic in the air, the shimmer of secrecy in the streets, the resilience of a city that has bent through centuries without breaking. And that legacy will endure so long as there are those willing to walk its crooked paths, to duel beneath its lanterns, to guard its secrets, and to dream of its mysteries. This is Wizard City, a place of spells and shadows, a place of rivalry and resilience, a place where the past is never gone, and the future is always being written. Its story is not finished, nor should it ever be. For some tales are not meant to end. They are meant to linger, like a spark in the night, reminding us that mystery itself can be a kind of magic. And now, with the crooked towers of Wizard City glowing faintly in your mind, let the hum of its legacy carry you gently toward rest. The city will still be there when you wake, waiting in silence, keeping its secrets, holding its place in ooh. Good night.